Langegger from the European Nuclear Society. Eileen will tell us about her work in collaboration with Valerie Foudon in Nuclear4Climate initiative, which was launched at the end of 2014 in preparation for COP21. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. So, welcome. Just one short question. Who knows the Nuclear4Climate initiative in this room? Okay, good. So, some of you know it, so I'm not going to tell you anything new, but for those who have never heard about it, I will just present to you what we have done over the last 5 years, what it is, and what we want to do. So, nuclear is part of the solution to fight climate change. That's our statement. We need to act now, because otherwise, at some point, we all know that climate change will have too many effects, and we cannot fight it anymore. We all know that the potential nuclear power has to fight climate change, and I will now tell you what the Nuclear4Climate initiatives, the nuclear societies and other groups have done to foster this message a bit. I'm doing this presentation on behalf of Ms. Valerie Foudon, the president of the French Nuclear Society, who is not able to be here and speak to you. I have another small personal remark. The initiative was a lot of times carried out by the young generation. For me, I'm still young, I'm still part of the young generation, even though I'm president of the Austrian Nuclear Society. 6 weeks ago, this became even more important for me. I have a little daughter waiting outside there. So this is also my part to make sure that the next generation has a good place to live. So it's a grassroots initiative. It brings together 150 organizations worldwide, scientific organizations, and the idea came up to found this initiative 1 year before the COP21 in Paris. It was mainly driven by the French Nuclear Society, and they tried to gather all the nuclear societies worldwide to have a common program to make everybody aware that nuclear is a low-carbon energy source. 1.5 years before COP21, there was still within the nuclear world, the sector, quite big opposition against this program within nuclear groups. So even people working in the sector were still quite, well, are we really going to do this? We have never done this before. We never campaigned openly pro-nuclear. This is quite difficult. Nobody really was having any experience if this is going to work. But otherwise, well, the anti-nuclear activists are doing this the whole time. They're quite openly speaking about all the negative effects nuclear could have, or in their opinion has. But still, everybody agreed on launching this program to avoid also a backlash. And so now we have 150 organizations that they can be categorized in 4 different groups mainly. They are like the nuclear societies that gather 50,000 scientists around the world. We have the young generations, not only in Europe, but also internationally. We have Women in Nuclear, all their chapters, and we also have the nuclear fora that are part of Nuclear4Climate. Here on this site, you can see that 3 of these groups have done their own declarations. They presented their position papers, and you can either download them on their websites or watch them online. So what are our objectives? Who are we tackling? Who do we want to address? First of all, of course, decision makers. So really politicians. We're really talking to ministers. We really try to go as high as possible and make them aware that nuclear is a low-carbon energy source, make sure that they include nuclear if they have it in the country or are thinking about other energy solutions, to include it in their talks and energy or solution parts. This is very important for us. Of course, something else that you would not think about is our industry employees. People working in the industry don't really show that they had it in the 80s, 90s, showing a pride that they work for this industry. and we try to give it back to them. So we have like signs. You can take a picture saying that you're working in the industry, nuclear is part of the solution, so things like this. And of course, general public. This is the largest part, of course, and this is the most difficult part to address. Why is this so difficult, and what is very important about it? There was a study done in 2050 on 20,000 people in 24 countries on all 5 continents, and they showed that even though nuclear is the second largest low carbon energy source, it had the second lowest support regarding energy sources. Why is this so? Because the public opinion is still that nuclear causes climate change. So this is a point that we should all have in mind, that the general opinion thinks, or general public thinks, that nuclear power plants emit greenhouse gases, and therefore they are responsible for climate change. So we are all, the society is fighting against this prejudice. And I'm from Austria, so from here, very anti-nuclear country, and apparently we made a point in our discussions, because yesterday I got an email that an Austrian newspaper is finally publishing a positive article about nuclear. So they did a huge project on it, and they came to the conclusion that without nuclear power we will not be able to fight climate change. So this is quite good. Okay, what did we do? We looked at anti-nuclear groups, what are they doing, and we tried to copy them a bit. So mainly we speak with one voice. We have one message, which is nuclear is part of the solution to fight climate change. Everybody is repeating this message all over again. We published a position paper, and it was updated in 2018. And we hope that with copying anti-nuclear activists and their ideas, that we can make a bit of a difference. Yeah, so this is the easier part. The more difficult part is how to gain attraction. We don't have the platform anti-nuclear groups have. So during the COP conferences, in the last ones, they had huge platforms to display either pro-renewables or anti-nuclear, anti-coal, whatever. We don't get this platform. If you're lucky, we have a booth, even sometimes back-to-back with the anti-nuclear activists, which is quite funny. And in Bonn, so 2 years ago, nuclear got the Fossil of the Day award. So we are considered a fossil energy source, and yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge. So this is something where we have to work together. But we have another power. This is social media. We have, if you're lucky, over 300,000 views on our messages that we display. We mainly tweet and publish during climate weeks, conferences, and COP events. This is where we have our most views. What you can do if you want to, you can go outside. There is just our booth outside. We have these papers that you can hold up where it says nuclear is part of the solution. Nuclear is a low carbon energy source. You can take a picture, you can tweet it. So this is something that you can do and share with your community. There are some impressions from the conferences, from the COP conferences. Something that I need to tell, and thank you, it was mainly driven by the young generation, so it was mainly organized besides COP21, but the others' participation at all the events were mainly driven by the young generation. Young generation means they are part of the young generation network, usually under 35 years old, working in the nuclear sector. And they take their free time, they are not paid, so they usually take their time off their work to go there and campaign for nuclear. So this is something which is quite important. We at least have funds to pay their travels, but quite often it's also they have to get their own funds for to stay somewhere and to pay the travel. Yes, so some recap that I can do. It was very interesting working together with all those organizations. So it says also I've been quite heavily involved in the organization of several of the conferences. So all the organization with the worldwide working together was very interesting. We got, with this initiative, also the possibility to engage the nuclear societies a bit more in some open campaigning. We had very active participation from the young generation. We also got in touch with other pro-nuclear groups like the Nuclear Pride Coalition and all the environmentalists that joined us. We learned how to work with social media. I have to say it like this: if you don't have the expertise, if you don't have an expert on social media, it's quite hard to really get as many followers or platforms that you need, and this is quite challenging. Something which is on the negative side is our relation with the UNFCCC. So even if we register early enough, even if we apply for an event, we don't get notifications. It's very hard to get confirmations of events or confirmations for a booth. So sometimes it's only 2 weeks ahead of the conferences that we get notified that something is happening. So even though that we see some effort, we still have the impression that the UN does not consider nuclear, even though it's the second largest low carbon energy source. So the UN does not take this into account and does not give it its place that it should deserve. So this is all from my side. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.